It's foggy morning. I'm
Today,
here with you.
you are.
Okay. What do we?
And I think we are going to talk about our compulsion to be a lawyer, like how deep seated it is. Where was I mean, mine started earlier than yours,
Much earlier.
but there's still this drive and compulsion to end up being a career lawyer like this. Like, there's a lot of people that become lawyers and never practice law. Or they become lawyers and they do a job that they don't like and they get their joy out of doing other things.
Yeah.
And then there's a group of people that are in a profession that is consuming. And this is the case here for me and for you, more so probably than even when you were a public defender.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about all this stuff, but I'm going to go way back down into memory lane.
I like that.
I have two papers here that I've saved over the years. The first one was written on May 9th, 1979. I would have been
1979.
I would have been a freshman in college. Yes.
I was in Iran and I was a toddler.
You were barely a toddler.
I was like a year old or something like that.
Okay. All right. This is it's 2 pages long, double space. So I'm going to read
Is
it.
it typewritten?
Yes.
That is so sweet. Did you have like a
No, this was
IBM
This
typewriter?
was graded. I only got a
it's
3.7.
homework?
This one was graded. Okay.
All right, let's see.
And this was before computers, so this is like typewriter.
Okay. I'm going to close my eyes and listen because I want to hear this.
Okay. Where will I be in 10 years? It's a question I hardly ask myself, as I am young and still not worried about my future. Yet, when I examine my past upbringing, present living situation, and various expectations of life, I find I can pretty accurately predict what my place in society will be by that time. My past plays an important role in determining my future. I am the product of a family in which I am the oldest child. Not only did I have my younger siblings to boss around and act like a queen to, but I also had a substantial amount of responsibility placed upon me by my parents, which included setting a proper example for the rest of the kids and often being placed in charge of things, like cleaning up the living room. To my childhood under these circumstances, I attribute my current ability to be authoritative and my general nature of being very self-assured. I was 18 when I wrote this. I'm just saying.
I see.
Added to this is the fact that I grew up under the influence of my father, who was a professor, and my mother, who was a lawyer. Having professionals as parents resulted in me becoming extremely cultured. Parentheses. I played piano for 9 years, traveled around the world extensively, read numerous books, magazines, newspapers, and became extremely susceptible to following in one of their footsteps, for I was constantly hearing talks about the lab or the office. When I was in the 9th grade, I knew that I was meant to become a lawyer. By that time, it had become such a part of me, thanks to my mother's influence, that even now, I cannot imagine living my life without being involved in the process of law. Thus, I can accurately say that in 10 years, I will be a lawyer, as it is a part of my nature which must be fulfilled. Also, like I said, some embarrassing parts. Also, in 10 years, I will be fairly rich. I should clarify this point by saying that my goal is not to be rich, but rather I assume I will be rich. I take becoming wealthy for granted as I grew up having enough money to meet my needs and desires, and as my desires will be considerably greater in 10 years, the money will also have to be of a larger quantity. However, though I expect to be rich, I don't know if I will be so through my law practice. Usually the corporation or salaried lawyers are those with the large incomes. My business will not be of that nature. Instead, I'm interested in civil liberty cases and other matters wherein a person's rights are at stake. Money cannot be my only reason for being an attorney, since so many victims of injustice have small pocketbooks. Also, I will either head a law firm or be in private practice, as I cannot tolerate working under anyone's supervision. Parentheses, a side of my personality which probably stems from being the oldest child in my family, end parentheses. Therefore, I will have the additional costs and problems related to running an office, which will also affect my ability of getting wealthy. Thus, if someone, I'm almost done. Thus, here's the conclusory paragraph.
What's the conclusion?
If someone came and asked me where I would be in 10 years, my answer would not be vague and uncertain, for I know. I will be a lawyer by then. The only question remaining is whether I will be wealthy or not.
My goodness. That's crazy.
Mike, what do you think about that? Is that crazy?
It sounds like a young person to me, that's for sure. I don't know that it's, I mean, you succeeded in all of those, I believe, so you were correct. But I think it was quite presumptuous of a young person to think that that's what was going to happen for sure.
I mean, I mean, did I live a privileged life? I did. But by the time I wrote that, so in May of 1979, just so you know, I had already obtained a restraining order against my very first boyfriend. He who was stalking me, there wasn't a name called stalking. He was stalking me at the UW, where, I mean, I almost felt like I wasn't going to pass my first year because he was stalking me, which is a huge place. I would be coming back to my car down on Montlake, which were thousands of cars, and he would be by my car, or he would find where I was in classes. Yeah. And then he actually broke into my place and kidnapped me and brought me to his parents' house, and his brother beat him up. But however, I did. So it was I led a privileged life, but I wasn't necessarily just unscathed by life at the time that I wrote it.
I love, what's crazy to me is how clear you are.
Well,
And then the second thing is that you were committed to accomplishing goals. And you accomplished the goals. Everything you've described there, you do. And like the personality part that you describe about yourself, about being the oldest and picking up around the house, you still do that. You're constantly going around and picking up and like making sure everything is like
I'm nothing if not predictable.
I mean, that I think is astonishing that writing. I love that writing. That's sweet.
I think I wanted to start with that. There's a second one in there, what I want to talk about, but I really want to talk about this first one because I led a privileged life.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of opportunity. I had a mother who, even though I didn't want to do what she did in terms of her practice, and I tried to be the opposite when I grew up, you came from totally different circumstances.
I did come from totally different circumstances.
And we've talked a little bit about, the bartending and the shopkeeping. But I want to talk about little Mo up to the age of, I was here, which was 18.
Yeah.
So you were 2 when I wrote this.
Yes.
17 years passed.
Yes.
Tell me about if little Mo had written this letter or this first, where would I have been in 10 years? And who were you at that age?
I mean, I never wrote anything like this. I just was not in the mindset of thinking about life through what you were thinking about. What kind of, touched me is, I have to admit that, I was envious listening to what you were describing to me. Envious that you had a father who was a professor and a mother who was a lawyer who was speaking into your life about, the prospect of a future, and then that influenced you to want to help others. I was living in a space where, I was surrounded by, physical and sexual violence. I was surrounded by abuse. I was surrounded by illness. And I was sort of in a space where I was just constantly in like fight or flight mode.
And resources.
We didn't have much resources. We came here, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't want to come to the United States. We were compelled to. The country, Iran, where we were at, was in a war. It was very difficult for us to leave our family behind. And when we came here, we did not have much. My mom, worked worked at a deli. She worked for an insurance company. And she was just trying to make ends meet. And, you know, my stepdad was a horrible person. He was just a terrible person. And I would remember, I'm trying to think where I was in my mind, you know, in my youth. And I remember I would lay in bed, I know this distinctly, and I would just lay down and just think about the universe. I was so overwhelmed. I just wanted to escape and think about the universe and think about my existence. I couldn't make sense about my life, why my circumstances were such. I have to admit, I thought that poverty was the reason I suffered. I really thought that poverty was why I suffered. And I thought that because I was not an American by birth, that is why I suffered. And I owned that. I just said that's me. That's like what I've been given. And I tried to figure out how to respond to that by learning on my own.
How old were you when your mom finally called the police? And tell us that story, or leading up to it. Like,
I just, you know,
I don't remember how old you were.
I don't remember. Like, I do remember the police being called many times. I do remember distinct episodes of severe violence, and then and I do remember that you know, one night my stepdad just, I don't know why, but I remember they were beating on each other senselessly, and
how old were you?
God, I can't remember, Karen.
Like,
I mean,
elementary school?
either elementary or middle.
Okay.
And I do remember that, like, I was so scared, and I just like froze, and I just threw up, and like it caused them to stop beating each other. And then I remember the police coming and talking to them. And at some point, and I bet you my sister knows the details better than I do, she's older. At some point, he did go to jail, and they took him. I do remember a night where we slept in our cars, and I suspect there were more nights than that night. And what we would do is we would go to a park. I remember the park. It was Pioneer Park. And then we would spend a day, and I would just go play in the park. And then, you know, my mom would bring like a blanket and some food, and we would have a picnic, and I would play with some kids. And then at the end of the day, we would go back and sleep in the car. And I do recall a police officer one night got us a hotel room, a motel room paid for us, so we didn't sleep in the car. And you know, I do remember, you know, going to school with ripped clothes. You know, I do remember, you know, just moving and living with friends because of conditions in the home. You know, and I do remember my sister suffered a lot. And then I do remember not being able to do anything and like feeling like a coward for many years.
You were a child.
Yeah, but, you know, it's just, I just couldn't think about my future. I just could not think about it. I was living like moment to moment.
And you know, here we are in a country, in a place, in a time where we are told that everyone should just be judged as having the same equal opportunity, that DEI is no longer necessary, that we're both lawyers and therefore we went through the same journey.
Yeah.
It's what do you think about that? I mean, because we didn't go through the same journey.
I know. I understand what that is, but here's where I struggle. I don't want to be a victim.
No.
You know, I don't want to be treated. I don't want to be treated differently because I went through this. Like,
understood.
And it's like, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's like a pride flipping thing or if it's like but I just don't want to be seen as a victim because that just reminds me of being a coward. That reminds me of being this person who just didn't have the courage to like stop my stepdad from doing what he was doing, or like protecting my mother or protecting my sister. I don't want to be that, because I just like, so part of my rejection, and by the way, I don't reject the concept of diversity, equity, inclusion for others. I reject it for me. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want any opportunity like that. But I'll, you know.
I mean, I'm the same way. We talked about, like, I didn't join women's groups or anything until much later on. And there's, you know, what is that, right? What is that? And just because I come from privilege and you didn't, I probably experienced more discrimination in the legal field than you do.
Yes. That that hands down.
The whole thing is so interesting, right? Like,
yeah.
It is very, it's all very interesting. But when I hear you talk, like you just talked about, you know, your childhood versus my childhood, that is the human experience. I mean, that is a range of human experience that exists. People, you know, I personally think you're extremely brave because you talk about it, and your journey has been so much greater than my journey to be where you are. There's just no doubt about it. The first time I met you, you know, and you wrote your terrible bio, and I said, well, you need to get personal. And you did, and I was just like, I mean, I cried the first time I saw it, you know, what you've gone through. So that thing that I wrote,
yeah,
that very self-assured appearing kind of entitled,
yeah,
I wish it and it'll come true. I still kind of have that.
Yeah.
My kids say that's my superpower, is
Yeah.
having a wish and making it come true. Mainly having others make it come true them.
Yeah.
But that positivity.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I have felt that one of the greatest gifts that my parents gave me, especially my mom, who in the face of complete adversity and being 100% wrong, always thought she was right. And I don't feel that way, but there's a constant there's a constant positivity about me. It's a hallmark of me. I'm very positive.
Yes. Yes. I love that
So
about
are you.
Yes. I love that about you. Yes.
So then I want to
Yes.
talk about just that of, again, also with the law, but just as a human experience, like it affected what I wanted to do in
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
I did not want to be corporate. I didn't, the whole thing about money, like, oh, I cringe when I see that. And we're going to talk about money.
Yes.
Because people don't talk about money, and you should talk about money, because money, what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
But how, again, from my experience being a positive person, that's so much easier to fathom than for you. Like, how did you do that?
Become a positive person?
And were you always? Obviously not.
No. I struggled. I struggled in my teens. I struggled in my 20s,
What
early
does that
20s.
mean?
Like depression,
Okay.
post-traumatic stress disorder. I have had general anxiety disorder throughout my whole life.
Okay.
I still experience anxiety, but it got very bad in my early 20s. I was suicidal after September 11th, after my mom died. So I was confronted with a moment in my life where I had to make a decision where I was going to succumb and submit to what was overwhelming me, or confront it. I was fortunate to meet a fantastic human being in New York, who was my therapist, who just protected me from myself and provided me a solution. And, you know, he took me to a mental health hospital. And I spent 2.5 weeks there. I was not addicted to drugs. I was not using alcohol at the time. they put me in the geriatrics ward. And I was surrounded by some of the most wonderful people who were struggling at the late stages of their lives with their own issues. And they took me in, and they gave me some simple solutions. One was, you're not that important.
Let's just let that resonate. What do you think about that one, Mike? You're not that important.
Oh, I fully agree with that. I mean, I've had similar issues myself, and I think realizing your place in the world and how, while you can be important in situations, but insignificant in the overall scheme of everything, allows you to not be as anxious.
Yeah.
It takes away some of the pressure, some of that. I mean, depression, to me, I always kind of describe it as a weight that you carry around that other people don't. And they can't see it, so they don't understand how heavy that weight can be to carry around, even in the most simple situations. So it can help you release some of that weight for sure. And it's not, I mean, it's never easy to do that, but that's great advice, I would say.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt about it?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to understand what that meant, that pain is relative, that all of us experience what I was experiencing in some form or another. It equalizes us, all of us. And it's really how you allow it to impact how you see yourself in the world that dictates the life you're going to live. And I had a choice to make. And me not being that important, I started to put that in my mind and that was my ground foundational principle, to try to focus on my mindset, that I could get up in the morning and say boy, today's a good day. I wonder what surprises are out there for me. Art helped me, poetry, and ways to process what was going on in my mind. And then eventually, I was nudged towards the law. I wouldn't even say that the law was prevalent in my mind.
Well, let's stop there, because I want to know the other lessons, but I do want to high point this whole, because the whole idea of waking up and basically self-talking, learning to re-self-talk. Whereas someone like me, again, I'm not saying that I have lived a trouble-free life, because I haven't.
Yeah.
However, I've always woken up happy for the day. It's very rare that I haven't.
I love that.
But I take it for granted, Mo.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes I'm not going to be maybe I'm not as strong as you. Maybe when bad things happen again, my way of coping is my way of coping, which is to just keep charging forward and ahead and through. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, there's still so much of me in there as kind of arrogant as that seems. I always have this unerring belief that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's how I self-talk to myself.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? That's always how I talk. But for you to wake up and you had to learn how to look forward to that day.
Yes.
Again, yeah, it's so stark. And so what was the next lesson?
Well, the next lesson that I learned was, this idea that how much power you have over the choices you make, the relationships you have, and then at the same time acknowledging what you don't have control over life, and to understand that this part of my brain that constantly, and it still does at times, trying to make sense of why these things happen to me, is really wasted, is a wasted exercise. And it's almost like trying to understand how time exists. Time exists. Right now I'm here with you. I have a moment with you and Mike, and we're present with each other, and we're just present. And then there's a part of my brain that wants to go back into time and go over things. And then there's a part of my brain that wants to go future, what's going to happen, trying to make sense of things. And it relies on my past experiences to tell me what I should expect in the future.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, an example of that is like, you know, you're a coward. That's the voice in the back of the head. You don't have any courage. So the future says that, you know, you're never going to amount to anything. That's what the future says, if it relies on that information. And understanding that, like, that those are lies I'm telling myself. Those are lies, like getting up and putting myself in the present moment and saying, like, I need to eliminate this time I'm wasting looking in the past and looking into the future and just focus to where I am right now. And all I have control over right now is how I am in this moment. And am I being honest with you? Am I being truthful? Am I being myself? That was the hardest thing I had to teach myself. In addition to waking up and being positive self-talk, it's exercise, Karen. It's like learning how to run.
So how would you, in one sentence, what is that? What is that rule?
The rule is that you must be present.
Okay.
You must be present. And when you see yourself like fleeting away from the moment, I'm right here.
So that is, I believe, one of the most important rules for human, not only for you it's for survival.
Yes.
But also for just human interaction.
Yes.
And I mean, you've been there talking to someone and you can tell like they're not paying attention to you.
Yes.
I used to do that with my kids all the time at the kitchen table when they'd be doing their homework and I'd be working on my stuff and they'd be talking to me and I would be listening to them out of one ear and doing my stuff the other ear, and they would always be furious with me. And I learned I need to give my eyes, I give my attention. And then the other more calculated part of me, I'm going to be really frank with you, knows, especially when I'm a trial lawyer, that is a superpower of a trial lawyer, to be present. Yeah. There is a charisma involved there because you are seeing the person you're communicating with, and they know you're seeing them, yes. Which is the humans crave that, right, to be acknowledged. So you have that connection, you're looking at them, they know you see them, and all you care about is them. And that's how I do direct exam. And in fact, I've had cases before where I didn't even meet the witness before. And maybe I was brought in to try a case at the last minute, which I used to do all the time. Friday, can you try this case on Monday? Yes, I will. Did not know these people. I literally I called it the mind meld.
Yeah.
That Spock does. And I'm very comfortable in it. I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned about oh no, I don't know this data or that data. I knew what I wanted out of this witness generally. And all I need, they didn't need to be my best friends. I didn't need to know where they lived or anything. I just needed to know that for this next half hour, they were going to be talking to me. I was going to be talking to them to communicate to the jury on a very trust-based level.
And I've seen you do that.
It's being, yes.
I've seen you do that.
It's being in the moment. Nobody else matters. The person knows it.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm a very comfortable person because you don't have a lot of conflict in me. I'm pretty much here I am. My hair is a little crazy today. And, it's just I'm not self-conscious when I'm in trial or when I'm talking to anybody.
I feel that's one of the primary reasons I wanted to work here is because when we talked, I felt that you were fully present with me, and you were talking to me, and you really wanted to know who I was.
That's the issue right there.
Yeah.
That part. Say that one again.
that
You really wanted to
you
know.
really
who
wanted to
was-
know. You sincerely were
Which I do.
interested in, like, to know who I was.
But
And
that's-
you were so curious. And you were asking questions, not from like a sense of like, how's this going to
Give me
benefit
this.
me?
Give me this data. Give me this data. Give me this
No.
data. I'm going to calculate this out.
And you were just curious. You were not like reaching a conclusion. You were not like deciding anything.
Yeah.
You were just like, and what else? And what else? And I was like, oh, what a curious person asking me all these questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, I think that that's a strength that you possess. And I know that that makes you a fantastic trial lawyer, but also it makes you a fantastic person.
But it's not really a strength. It's just a way of choosing to be, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, when I say strength, is that maybe you're right. That's not an appropriate way to refer to it, but I don't see a lot of people doing that. It's hard to find,
Especially now.
Especially now, and so it's a rare. It
shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's a rare trait.
It shouldn't be though, because we're losing something by not desiring that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there anything else? That was 2.
That was 2, and I think the third one was, just keep making decisions. That was the third one. Like if you are, and by the way, I teach all these to the law students. I teach all of these life
lessons.
Life lessons in how I teach, and I even teach them to 11-year-olds that I coach basketball. You just keep making decisions. You'll wake up. You will feel like something, like there are circumstances going on that are overwhelming you. You just make decisions. Don't think about it. Make little decisions. Put your shoes on, make a little breakfast, call a friend and tell them you love them. When you walk down the street, decide to smile, and like little things, right? Write a little note, and then all these little decisions start to collect and build momentum into a bigger decision and help you just so. And this is one I think that, by the way, I think you have all these 3 qualities.
I'm very well.
Right.
Again, privileged.
Yeah,
I
but
do,
but you
yes.
do. But like I think this
I'm very
part,
decisive.
we professionally thrive, you and I, because this is one of your major mantras. Go, go, go. Just keep making decisions. It'll work itself out. And being in that environment, boy, I love it.
Yeah.
I just love working with people like that.
Proactive. Don't wait for it to happen
Yes.
to you. You got to go like, what are we going to do next and next and next and next and next and
Yeah,
next?
yeah. Those are the 3 things that have radically helped me, have fundamentally changed my life.
From a very early age.
From a very early age.
Yeah.
Early age. Yeah. And then, I think the takeaway is, if people are listening to this, this is not about like me wanting to talk about my life in a sense of like, I want your sympathy. What I'm trying to really convey is that you don't have to decide where you want to be professionally at a young age. You can decide things and let life take you there. If you have principles that keep you real, make sure that you realize that you're not that important, they will take you to a place where you can thrive. And that could be in your 20s, which is when I decided to want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I had no clue about any of that before. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing,
Oh, yeah.
Really, core parts of yourself because everybody has their own stuff.
Yeah.
You're not alone. I would say, to me, I would have added a 4th.
What's the 4th?
You're not alone.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I struggle with that. I know I'm not alone, but I got to tell you, I feel alone a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I have my wife. She's wonderful. I have my child. Wonderful. I have you. I have friends.
Many friends.
I have a lot of people.
Mo is one of the most social people I've ever known.
Yeah.
Like, where are you? I'm going to this dinner. I'm going to that dinner. Where are you going? I'm going to go see Shirley for dinner. Why haven't you invited me? I wanted to come.
Yeah.
He just always is go, 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 or this match or that match, or, is it basketball a match?
Basketball games.
Games.
Yeah.
For his son. So just constantly very, very social, and yet you feel alone.
Yeah, I do feel alone. I feel alone in my thoughts, and I feel alone.
Well, there's a difference between being fine with having quiet time, and then there's lonely. Do you feel alone or do you feel lonely?
I don't know the difference. Help me understand.
Alone is just like, man, I want to be alone. I want to go sit over there in that chair over there and read a book. And lonely is, I just feel like I'm in this all by myself.
I do not feel personally.
That was my definition. You can have your own definition.
No. But this is important because I have never felt lonely personally. That I'm in it by myself because Kathy's been a wonderful support system for me personally. Professionally, I felt that.
Oh,
I felt that professionally in like what I aspire to be as a lawyer. But until recently, I've started not to feel that. And it's my work experience with you. I got to be honest. Like, I truly feel that like our professional aspirations are so aligned, which makes it easy for me to like understand instinctually what you want and what your aspirations are, and they're aligned, so just I can follow it easily. But that's a first professionally, that I don't feel alone. And all I want to do is grow that and protect that and foster that, because I think it's going to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I think people are better when they're together.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I think that this law firm is better because we're all together.
Yes.
Right? If we were just solo people, the impact is completely different.
Yes, I fully agree with that. Lonely, it's that I don't like to be by myself, like doing things by myself. I'll have either a book in my ear with somebody talking to me, or I'll have music in my ear with somebody singing to me, or I'll be with people. I'm just not a person who likes to be by themselves. Yeah.
Okay, we won't analyze that.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. No.
Because, as you would say, what kind of a dog are you?
I'm a sloppy pup. Well, that's what I was described by my writing mentor in New York.
A sloppy pup.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's good for today.
Yeah. No, I thought that was good. Felt like a therapy session, but I'm okay.
You never know where you're going to go. I didn't show him the writing ahead of time. I said, I found this thing, found two of them actually. We'll do the other one in a separate episode. But yeah, I found this one, and I think it'll be fun to go from this. It was a paper that I wrote when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, and the takeaway I think is that you can become a lawyer by focusing on that desire early on in life, like you did, and accomplish all of the things you want when you're young, or you can find your way there through another path. So that's what compelled us to be lawyers.
Yeah.